episode 4 of LinkedIn for Leaders, where we clarify the strategies and tactics that help you create your thought leader and revenue generating personal brand. Today's guest is Himanshu Bharadwaj. Welcome, Himanshu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to have you. And I'm going to give you a quick introduction about Himanshu. So, as a product innovation leader, Himanshu has dedicated his career to shaping human centered, scalable, and joyful experiences that drive business success. With over 15 years of experience in design strategy, he has delivered three world first product innovations, guided 25 plus startups to commercial success, and built globally distributed teams on site, remote, and offshore. He's the creator of Joyful Design, a unifying process that combines cognitive science, behavioral insights, and UX design to transform how companies approach product development. Today, of course, we will dive into Himanshu's joyful design framework and apply the learnings to creating joyful personal brand narratives. So, jumping straight in, I know Himanshu that you have a deep meditation practice and you've also lived at monasteries in the Himalayas. So, how has that shaped your perception of joy?
Eh, Thank you, Karan, for inviting me. So, you know, back in the day when I was growing up, I used to hear about these venerated figures who everybody would, look up to. And one of the common thread about their story was they went into isolation, they would meditate. So I thought, as a child, I thought, meditation is something really cool because it makes you somebody great. So I think that was the first incentive for me to meditate. I thought I will become some great person. However, as I started studying meditation within my family, both my parents were meditators. So I started reading books, and there is this common phrase: "You only live once," and then there is another one: "You have two lives, and the second life starts when you realize you have one life."
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, let me try to figure out the meaning of life. What exactly is life? And I started my meditation practice. I realize we neither have one life or two life. We have multiple lives. Every day we live and die
Hmm.
because we are awake and then we go to sleep. So sleep experience is like a death experience because we are unaware of who we are.
Hmm.
Our identity, our brand disappears in that moment. So next day you wake up, you begin afresh, which means life gives us opportunity, multiple opportunities. So we have multiple opportunities to grow, to develop, and to evolve, which is the real meaning and purpose of life. So that teaching helps me in my profession, and I bring it in teams. Failure is okay. We all learn from failure. Next day is another opportunity. Next moment is another opportunity. Every breath is an opportunity to live and to experience and to think something else. So when we breathe in, it's breathing new life into us. Breathe out, it's breathing out that experience and holding and waiting for the next breath to come in, which is also a life experience. Likewise, it's a series of events in life. So the ups and downs are okay to have. So I think that helps you be patient, it helps you with calmness, and it also gives new meaning to joy because what I have found is everybody is chasing happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is elusive, and at the same time everything that we do in this world is to be happy. Whether we are working in a job, whether we are marrying, whether we are having children, whether we are eating some food in a restaurant, everything is for happiness. Even people who are committing suicide are because they're thinking that by committing suicide they'll be happy, because they are sick and tired of being unhappy. However, nobody ever gets happiness, because if people become happy, then it should stay for some time, but it is elusive. It does
Mm.
not stay. So what people are mistaking happiness is basically pleasure.
Mm.
So we are basically chasing pleasures, but joy is something different. Joy is something that comes from within. It's inner experience, and it is only in the moment. So as long as you can live in that moment and experience your inner happiness by connecting with your own self, you would experience joy. And over a period of time, just like a trained muscle, that joy will turn into bliss.
That's amazing. Also, worth mentioning to the viewers that meditation is actually one of the first things that Himanshu and I connected about, because I've done Vipassana meditation for a little while, and I think Himanshu ji, you've done Vipassana as well. Or there's a different kind of meditation that you
Yeah, I've experimented with various forms of meditation.
various forms of meditation. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I had one follow up question. Can you, in your experience, what would you say are maybe everyday experiences that most people have that are actually joyful? They just don't think of them that way, like you said, happiness is something where people are chasing after. Oh, I'll feel happy when I get buy a new car, I'll feel happy when I go on a holiday, or when I get that promotion, etc. uh, but are there instances of joy that we see and experience every day, it's just that we don't register it that way?
Of course, every moment of your life can be considered a joyful experience. It's how you see it. The meaning, and the meaning lies in the way we see things. So our way of seeing things creates our own reality. There is nothing called absolute reality. um, what we see, what we perceive, creates that reality. So the fact that we are eating food is also a
Hmm.
joyful experience, because imagine how the food is going to nourish you. Every
Hmm.
cell of your body is going to be nourished. If you
Hmm.
imagine that while eating food, the act of eating will be so joyful. If you imagine how the food was prepared, how many people worked very hard to put that food on the table, all the way back to the farmer, you know the effort the farmer did, and then how the transportation happened, how the processing of food happened, who delivered the food, who sold the food, how you took the effort of carrying that food home, and then the multiple people in the household like contributed to preparing that food. So even just if you look at the journey of the food, that will give you experience. And I think, and I try to incorporate it even in my UX or design work, how to build product, because you create this journey map, and once you figure out the journey all the way from the beginning and all the way to the end, I think it creates joyful experience. One thing that we do is, when we create these experiences or experience map, we only create from start to end, and that start to end is the usage of the product. And I think that is the limitation. We create the branding of for a company or something, and or for own self. We only look at the interaction point when the user is interacting with our brand, or somebody is looking at our profile. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of work that goes before they come to that interaction, and a lot of work after they leave the profile and go away. And I think that creates the actual brand experience is, people say it's between promise and delivery, but I would say it happens much before you even make a promise. So it's a full spectrum of experience that you have to consider to create an experience, to create a map. And likewise, if you're drinking water, think about where the water comes from, how the water travels, what is the life of a water. Now let's go deep into this. There is actually a book called Water Logic by
Okay.
Edward de Bono. And life is, if you can live life like water, you will be very happy. For example, water always finds a way. You put water anywhere, it will always go to the ocean, because that is the destination of water. So, however many obstacles you face in life, just be sure that you will always find the answer to fixing overcoming those obstacles. So water can evaporate. You put it in the refrigerator and freeze it. Even then, once in a while, you take it out, it will evaporate and become rain and then go to the ocean. You put it in glass, you dump it in the uh, in the sink, and it will still find its way to the ocean. So no matter what, water will find its destination. Likewise, human beings always find the destination. One life is not what you want to bind your life with. It's a
Mm-hmm.
series of lives, it's a series of experiences and series of learning. So I think you can find joy in just about anything in this world, as long as you can philosophize it, or you go deep into it, you create your own imagination with it, and that triggers creativity, and that creativity helps in your profession. So it changes your brains, and this is what I do. I help people change their brains.
Yeah, and and I think it's great that you did a sort of a natural segue talking about product and experiences also, and journey mapping, because my follow up question, in how is it that you look at joy in life, is like how is it that you look at joy in workplaces or in like in narratives, right? Narrative building with products, because product led innovation is something that you've done for a very long time. Is there any framework or like a core set of tenets that you have that you advise to be followed to bring in more joy into product design, or even while designing a personal narrative for an individual?
So one thing I would suggest is not follow any frameworks. And
Okay.
it might sound very different from what you hear and what you read in books, but we are not built to follow frameworks. In fact, the more frameworks you follow, you will become less creative in life. Your thinking it is restricted, you become more linear, and our brain doesn't work in frameworks. So, and this is a disconnect between human life and the way business works. You basically need direction, not really frameworks. And
Okay.
as long as your direction is right, you would find your way, because nothing happens according to plan. You can plan a lot, but even then, the plans won't work and you would find obstacles. So you go step by step. Now you asked about how the whole how it works in product and uh, even in brand. One of the things that I have experienced over the years working for companies and building brands, building products, is way back, everybody was talking about features in products. Or even when you talk about brand, what do you represent? What is your feature? I do X, Y, Z, right? Those are, and this is how people frame their resumes today. And when you try to sell a product, you basically say, okay, the product has these features. But then people realize, marketers realize that it doesn't work. People don't buy features.
Hmm.
And,
My experiences.
right? And this is a problem with people who are even creating systems in AI who evaluate resumes today. everybody's writing, I've done this, these are the metrics, and um, these are my skill sets. So features don't work when people buy. So then everybody switched to benefits. So then you will see a lot of landing pages, a lot of websites talking about the benefits of the product.
Hmm.
So people found that even benefits don't work. People are not buying benefits. So then a lot of strategists came, business strategists. They said, okay, let's talk about values. So let's try to sell value, because people buy value.
Yeah.
And even like when you talk to when you talk about your personal brand, you talk about, I bring this value to the company, I bring this to the table. People are not buying values either.
Okay.
And it's a slow evolution in marketing, in advertising, in branding. Even the father of marketing, Philip Kotler, has evolved his frameworks, the 4 P's of marketing, and finally he came to people. uh,
Hmm.
people should be the first thing. But we live in a world of capitalism, the Adam Smith capitalism, where it's about money. So when you talk about money, then everything takes a backseat. But the world is coming to realize how humanity is important. So after values, then people started talking about experience.
Hmm.
And this is where experience design comes in. Everybody talk about the value of experience design. What is the experience that we are creating? Brand, there is brand experience, product experience, CX.
Yeah,
And
CX is a very big thing right now. Yeah.
yes, yes. So even that is not cutting edge. And people are realizing this is actually one of the reasons why UX designers are facing problems in work. Brand strategists are facing problem, because experience is only when you are interacting with the product.
Yeah.
What happens before and what happens after? So when you are experiencing the product, yes, it should be seamless, it should be friction free, or whatever adjectives you want to put. But this is not the reason why people buy products. So beyond the experience are feelings.
Hmm.
So now, great thinkers are actually talking about feelings. There are now books about it, which is the latest thing in marketing, branding, personal branding. What is the feeling that you give to other people when you talk to them? And
Hmm.
that is your personal brand. When you
Hmm.
create a product, what is the feeling that is left over after a person has interacted with the product? You
Hmm.
don't buy Apple products just because Apple has a nice keyboard or it looks nice. Aesthetics is one thing, but there is something that is left in you when
Yeah.
you close the computer and you're going for a walk and you talk and you think about Apple computer.
And that goes beyond logic.
Yes, so it is the feelings that really matter. And uh, and that is and that is also the key for building personal branding. And since you talk about personal branding, when you interact with people, what is the how do you make the other people feel? And there is a famous quote by Steve Jobs. I think one can learn about this. People
Hmm.
don't buy products for features. I think people buy product for what it makes them feel, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So people, and Steve Jobs was a visionary. So I think he landed on the right spot, and that is why he built an iconic brand. But a lot of people don't really think about it because it's abstract, it's not measurable, and it's difficult to create a feeling in a brand, in a product, and even at a personal brand level. We live in a very transactional world. If you give me something, I give you something back, and that is how it works. And that doesn't give joy, because the moment you have transactions, there is inequality, because no transactions are ever equal, because we are all very different. and the value of the transaction depends on your own perception of what you're getting. And
Hmm.
the more you get, the more your greed will increase.
Hmm.
So uh, so you will never be happy with your relationships if it is a transactional relationships. And so you have to go beyond the transaction. It is the feeling that somebody gives, and you value that feeling. I'll give you a small, I'll give you something to very to deeply ponder.
Sure.
And this is about experience, and you can apply to personal brand, you can apply to products, you can apply to brand experiences for companies. So we both are talking to each other, right?
Hmm.
What is the value of this conversation? So far we have spent 5 minutes in this conversation. What is the real value? You can talk about, okay, we have given time to each other, okay, we have used this platform to advertise ourselves, right? People will know us. Is that really the value? I think the real tangible value is that if I've given 10 minutes and you have given me 10 minutes, and people who are watching this have given their 10 minutes in watching this conversation, they have given 10 minutes of their life to us.
Yes.
That is the tangible value. So now, if somebody is coming on a web page that you have designed, they have spent 5 minutes on that web page, it means they have given you 5 minutes of their life. So once you start valuing the life, the way you create anything, the way you create products, the way you create brand will be very different. So your brain will actually work differently. You'll actually think differently. Your creativity will change. So this is the rewiring of the brain I do. I use a lot of neuroscience in my work. And through these conversations, through these thoughtful, provoking ideas, you can actually change your brain.
I completely agree because neuroplasticity is such a big thing. And you have one set of people who think that no, I'm set in my ways. At the same time, enough and more science says that no, neuroplasticity is a very real thing, and it's just your intent that can then be followed by action, right? But if it is grounded in a feeling that you want to create, you're starting from, and then you want to live into, that intended action can become that much more real. We actually, time flies really fast in these conversations, and we have about 8 minutes to go. I did one thought did come to mind, Himanshu. I read somewhere recently where they were talking about in the context of UX, right? And I'm trying to relate this to what you said right at the outset about the difference between happiness and joy, where happiness is your maybe you set certain set of goals. You want to go on a holiday, you'll feel happy. You'll get a new car, you'll feel happy. Get a job, you'll feel happy. Versus joy being things, if I were to reiterate what you were saying, the idea of just being significantly more present in the here and now, and then appreciating the moment now. For now, like you give the analogy of, you can eat the food and be done with it because you're feeling hungry, but if you really are present with it, and spending that additional moment with it and appreciating the journey that it took to get there, um, that can prove to be a little bit more joyful. Now, there's a long, wound up thing that I want to bring to what I was asking, which is about, I read somewhere about net promoter score, right? This idea that, okay, on a product, I will, someone's been using it for a little while, and then we sort of gauge an NPS score. And especially in this age of AI, and that's an area that you also do a fair amount of work in. What they were saying is that the opportunity today is to actually track micro moments within that interaction, as opposed to saying, give us a overall score about this entire thing. That one product is made of 10 features, and you sort of gauge each and everything. So is that a way of looking at how you can infuse joy in micro moments, in products, and also being more conscious, therefore infuse joy in how you think of speaking about yourself as well?
So there are multiple questions, and I try to answer one by one or mix it up, but I'll try to somehow point it towards personal branding, which is your
Sure.
subject.
Yeah.
So one thing about NPS, there are you'll find a lot of difference of opinion about whether it is even successful and the
Mm.
way it is conducted. It's so I wouldn't go into those details. You can find them on the web.
Sure.
There is opposing opinion about that. But what I would say is we are not consumers of relationships. We think that we are consuming products, we are consuming brands, but we are not really consumers of relationships. Even when we talk to each other, we are not consumers of relationships. We are actually creators of relationships, and that is how brands are built. That's how products are built. You create a relationship with the customer. So every feature that you create, think about what how will it help this feature create a relationship with the customer or the human being. I won't use those terms, but I would say another human being. So as long as you can think about those relationships, you would actually build a better feature.
Hmm.
And when you look at your personal brand, it's not what people think of you. It's about how they relate to you. And so what people typically do is they create multiple profiles, quote unquote, of themselves, right? So you have an authentic self, and since you talk about LinkedIn, we try to be the best version of ourselves on LinkedIn. We go to an interview, we try to be the best version of ourselves, and sometimes we fake it. And the same happens from the employer side too. They try to show the best version. Now, when you join the company, you become your real self, and there is a disconnect. People realize you are an angry person. You've got anger issues. You've got these problems, which means that you were not authentic.
So you
So
were very, you had one persona before and a whole different persona later.
yes, yes. So branding comes from being authentic,
Hmm.
and by being authentic, you build relationships. Marketing happens when you are authentic. If some crisis happens, you accept your mistake. Be authentic.
But
Don't
for
try to wash it away.
sorry to interject, Himanshu, but for some people, being authentic, they struggle with that, or it's a challenge for them. What would you say to them?
I think it is not that difficult to find authenticity. I think what we encounter in our day-to-day life, and that comes from our ego
Mm.
and the need to be happy, is we are very fearful of losing something. We've got things, we want happiness, so we keep going after things, and then we've accumulated those things. We fear of losing them, and that fear of losing something creates a different persona. So lose the fear, and you will become more authentic. In fact, when you become fearless, you become actually more creative. You become more bold, and you can take risk. You can be a better entrepreneur. You can be a better leader. So this is the key to be a better human being, to be a better leader. So lose that fear within you, and authenticity will emerge from within. We fear of losing our girlfriend when we are courting, so we try to put on a different persona, and then we get married, and then you see the hidden aspects of the other person. You see the other side of the person, and then the sky falls down.
Well, I mean, yeah, and which is why it's so important that, like they say in sales also, right? The pre-sale is a good indicator of how the sale is going to be. But quite often, when we're in, when in that honeymoon phase, or you before you're getting married, you're in you're selling one persona, and when you're post marriage, it's a whole different persona.
Yes.
Um, but thank you so much, Himanshu. Like I said, time goes by very quickly. We have about a minute to go. I'd love it if you could share, if someone had to get in touch with you and read more or get to know more about the work that you're doing. How can they get in touch with you? Where can they find more about the work?
Sure, sure. So you can check my website, joyful.design, You'll know everything about myself.
Okay. Yeah, I've just put the link in the chat. Eliza said that she loved your provocation about frameworks. She said freedom from frameworks, love it. So
Thank you, Eliza.
a few things that definitely resonate over there. We're at time. Thank you, Himanshu, for making the time over here. As the audience, as you heard, there are. Joy is something that you can, in just being present, there's a lot more that you can experience. And in being, that if you're authentic, that can lead to a lot more joyful experiences. To be authentic, obviously, as Himanshu shared just now, there's a few things to be done, but it's worth, embarking on that journey. Thank you, Himanshu, for your time. And thank you for everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining here today.
Thank you.